Royalty, royalty, power to the chosen people.
Shalom, shalom. So today we're going to go over the video, or actually give some background information to the video on calling your husband Lord. So if you watched the video, or if you haven't, this will give you some background, because I saw some of the people in the comment like, do we use the word Lord? Lord's not really in, it's a pagan word. And so I talked to a couple of really good friends of mine, and I felt like there needs to be a little more clarification. So let's start off with a couple of things. The Hebrew language is a DNA of creation. A lot of people use a lot of languages to define things. English is not a language for defining. English is, in a non-derogatory way, it's a bastardized language. It means it's mixed up and it's taken a lot of other languages and their words and how they're used, and they put them into a melting pot. So you get definitions that don't really carry over well in Hebrew. The second thing is, because Hebrew is the foundation or the DNA of creation, you can't automatically make a word negative just because it's been attributed to something negative. For instance, the word Lord is English, so obviously this word is of none effect. Now we don't use it, and we never use it in reference to Yahuwah because he has a name, and we use his name. So that's a very important thing to understand. But you have people who believe that because this is attached to this, and then, Yahweh, as a lot of Christians or people who go by this particular dialect, I guess, of Hebrew use it, and they tell you that it is the same as this, okay? Well, that's not true. These are not equivalent. And, this is not some kind of weird work down where all this stuff, means the same thing. Now, obviously, this is English. It would be a transliteration. This would be also a transliteration into English letters, but this is what you would have. Now, you have people who say that those words are pagan because they're attached to Lord, and Lord means veil. But you can't take an English word, English, right, and attach it to a Hebrew word. So you have veil, okay? Because English is not first, Hebrew is first. Now we're getting a lot of arguments about whether Hebrew is first, and we're not going to do this whole Proto-Semitic language and tracking everything back, but I will share something with you. The reason why a lot of people seem very smart and back in the day, especially a lot of Jews, is because they understood the Hebrew language and saw the DNA that was in creation. So in science, we have something called water, and it's called H2O. And everybody marvels over, wow, look at H2O, that's like such a great equation, and somebody was really smart to see 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. But in creation, when Yah spoke creation into existence, he already gave us the formula. Water in Hebrew is the word mayim. 2 mims, and it literally sits obviously on top and not on the bottom. So the way that we see things are based upon the foundation of Hebrew. So in order to understand why certain words are used, or why they're mistranslated, or why Yah doesn't like a word, you can't just demonize a word because it's used a certain way in English. We have to understand what's being said in Hebrew. So all that to say, we're going to start off with Hosea 2:16. Hosea 2:16, and I'll be over here a little bit because this is where my notes are, so I can write down what I have in front of me. Hosea 2:16 says, and it shall be in that day that they shall no longer call me Ba'ali, but Ishi, or they shall call me Ishi, and no longer use the name, or no longer call me Ba'ali. So the word here in in Hebrew, is Bet Ayin Lamed Yod. So quick little Hebrew lesson. When there's a yod at the end of something, it's a possessive, and so it actually means my. And then we have this word Baal. And everybody automatically says Baal means Lord. We don't say that word because it's Lord. Now, I'm not telling you why you should or should not use something. I'm going to give you the definition of Baal, and I'm going to leave that to you because I'm not here to convince you of what you should or should not be using. I just want to show you the progression of Hebrew and why Yah actually hated being called Ba'ali. And then we'll get into, did Sarah actually call Abraham Lord, or what did she actually call him? Did she call him Baal or Baal? So look at it. Okay, so Baal in Hebrew is made up of bet. So that's a house or inn. An ayin, see, experience, okay? And then a lamet. And a lamet is control, right? Kind of seeing where this is going. Toward, to guide or lead something. A leader. Okay, so the one with the shepherd staff is a leader, right? So Yah's saying, you're not going to call me Baal. So what does this actually mean? How can this be defined concretely using our English words? Well, how it's actually defined is master, a master or to take possession. So Baal is defined as a master, right? Or to take possession. So obviously, in order to take possession of something, it had to be possessed by someone else. You're getting a lot more background. I can probably see a lot of people's eyes opening up like, wow, that makes so much sense now. So he's saying, as a husband, right, I was already your husband. I went through all the proper steps. I don't break steps. I don't jump over steps. And I went through the process of making you my bride. So I've cleansed you with the word, and I've paid the price for you, and I've gathered you, and I made you mine, and I let the whole world know. And this is the thing, we're communing. This is intimate. And then somebody else comes along and masters or takes possession and owns you now, but technically you're still mine, right? You kind of get it? Okay, so that is the term Baal. It's somebody who takes possession. So in that verse, if you go to the next verse, Hosea 2:16, and you read 2:17, says, for I will take away the names of Baalim. So we say Balaam, because, we're English and we say stuff a little country, but it's Baalim. And it means I'm gonna take away. So now he's doing it taking. It's a recapturing or a regathering of what is his. And if you haven't read the whole book of Hosea, it's a very good place. It's a very good place to understand how much Yah loves his people and what a great depth he goes through and the heights he goes to reclaim them after they've gone off a whoring, like Hosea's wife Gomer. Okay, so he goes, now I will take away. So he's going to do the taking this time. The names of Baalim. So all of these masters. This is a master, right? They're calling you Baali, right? My master. But you have a whole bunch of masters, right? And I'm going to remove them from her mouth and not to be remembered by their names anymore. So let's talk about Yah's issue with Baal before I move into what my point was in the video, because they kind of got blended. We blended what we should call Yah with what we call our husbands, and those are two kind of separate things, but I'm going to deal with them both. So what started happening is very, very similar to what we were doing, many of us, before we became conscious of our cultural heritage, and if not cultural, then our grafted in heritage to the father and his family. And you have a master, so you have a Baal, and then you had Yah, right? And I'll just write Yah for short. And what happened is, what made that incident so terrible is in conjunction with Deuteronomy 12:28, I'm sorry, where Yah says, when you go into the land and you see these other nations doing what they do to their gods, don't do that unto me. That's an abomination unto me, right? And so I've heard people say that Yahweh and Baal are the same person. Most of those people have never read the Bible, or that Yahweh and Baal are schizophrenic, because why would Yahweh or Yahuwah, being Baal, or those being the equivalent of one another, get worship one way and then tell the people not to do that because that's detestable to him? It doesn't really add up. But what happened over time, and it's a cyclical pattern that our people have gone through, and obviously it's in Christianity and in other religions, where they started saying that Baal and Yah were the same, right? Now you're probably like, what? But think about it. In Christianity, people say that when I do this, let's say, this thing right here, right? That's the exact same thing as this to me. So obviously I know the cross is pagan. I'm just making an example. So to them, the cross represents, Jesus to them, right? And we all know that this is a phallus. This is a penis. The picture, obviously not the tree, but it's a tree that actually represents a phallus. And these two are the same to me. And Yah said, do not do that. Don't take your pagan gods and their pagan symbols and make them equivalent to me. So what he's saying is, you have a master and you like your master because you can control your master, right? You can control your side dude or your side chick. You don't control me. I'm in control. So don't try to take the control that you have over this and place it here in order to be able to do stuff like this. Or like this, with a little bow. Right? Don't do it. Don't do it to me. I don't like those practices. I have my own culture. I have my own customs. So he was saying, you know what? As long as you have these side gods, then you're going to keep trying to tell people, but it doesn't matter because I know you think I'm doing it to Baal. It looks like Baal, but I'm really doing it for Yah. Yah's like, I hate that, right? Okay, so if you go to Hosea 2:18, and so he says, I'm your husband, you got a side guy. So it's consistent with the picture of Hagar and Gomer and Yahuwah and his people, right? And he says, I will make a covenant in that day for them with the beasts of the fields and the heavens. And he says, and with the sword, and I will break out of the earth, and I will make them lie down in safety. And he says, 2:19, and I will betroth you to me in faithfulness, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. Okay? So, starting here, I am never, ever, ever saying to call Yah or anyone else Baal. Okay? We'll start there. So the second thing is, we're going to look at this word. Because I said Adoni, right? So in English, it looks like this. Okay, so there's a difference between Adoni and Adonai, right? We see this as a cover-up for Yah's name. We're going to actually look at Adoni. I showed you what the E portion means, so it means my. So really what we're left with is Adon, being the root of this. Okay, or Don, Dalit Nun, Don. And so we're going to look at Don or Adon and see how that actually matches up and see actually what Sarah actually called Abraham. So, first things first, in 1 Peter 3:6, so it's 1 Peter 3:6, right? And it says, even so, as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as you do well and are not afraid with any amazement. So, there's obviously something happening before that. It has a prerequisite. So we can't just take that verse and then just run from there. Let's go back to verse 5 and see if we can put a little context to it. It says, verse 4, actually we'll go back one more verse. Verse 4 talks about beauty, right? And it says, your beauty should not come from outward adornment such as braided hair or gold jewelry or fine clothes. And I know somebody's going to ask me about this, and I'll definitely deal with it. I'm not going to deal with this in this video though. But from the inner disposition of your heart, the unfading beauty of a gentle or a meek and quiet spirit, which is precious in Yah's sight. So you get some construct. You're like, okay. It says, for this is how the holy women or the set apart women. So this is what, now he's telling you how other women did it. So you get an example. For this is how the holy women, the set apart women of the past, adorned themselves, right? They put their hope in Yah and were subject to their husbands, right? And it says, just as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, you are her children. And if you do what is right and refuse to quiver in fear, then pretty much Yah, is going to take care of the rest. I added that last part. You're not going to find it there, but that's what it means to not fear, to not worry about, if I do this, what are people going to think? What are my friends going to think if I'm walking around saying, Adoni, Adoni, Adoni? And they're like, what does that mean? Oh, it means master, or like pretty much his position is head of me, right? So in that verse, obviously the word Lord is used. So immediately everybody's going to say, see, she's calling him Baal, and that's because the New Testament's pagan, and she's calling him a false god. Okay, so no. Okay. If you have access, and I'll probably add a clip of how to do this, and you can actually cross-reference. So if you go to Bible Hub and you type in 1 Peter 3:16, it'll give you the verse and it'll give you like a whole bunch of translations. But on the right-hand side, if you scroll down, it's going to give you cross-references. And it's going to cross-reference you back to Genesis 18:12. And so if you click on Genesis 18:12, you'll be able to see where Peter even gets his quote from, why he even uses her in the first place. So the verse is, so the cross-reference is Genesis, or Bereshit 18:12. Okay? And literally in that verse, it says, therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure with my Lord, being old also. So she uses this word, Lord. Okay? So if you click on it in your Bible Hub and you go to the top, there's going to be some stuff across the top, and there's comments, interlinear, and Hebrew. We're interested in the Hebrew. If you scroll down and you see where Sarah gets the part, so she says, I have become old, shall I have pleasure to me, and my Lord being old? It's the Hebrew Strong's word, right? And I should say number. We'll deal with the word in a second. 113, 113. Now, many of you should have, if you've been watching the videos, downloaded the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon of the Bible. Because remember, if you read in the front of Strong's, he tells you that this is not a conclusive dictionary for Hebrew. This is one man with probably help, his effort of trying to get enough working definitions so that people who read in English can understand the Bible. But we have gotten much better resources and have much more of an understanding of Hebrew than when Strong's was doing things. So, and a lot of us use paleo and pictographical Hebrew now, and so we understand word pictures and we can see things. So if you go to 113, you're going to get the word Adon, okay? You're going to get this word. So, and its two-letter root is don, and if you have Ancient Hebrew Lexicon, then that'll come in handy. So if you go to the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon and you open it up and say a PDF, in the little search function you can type in 113, and it'll actually take you exactly to this definition. And the word you're going to get is the word for master, or a leader or ruler. But right off the top, you don't really see it clearly. So I'm going to actually break these down, and then you'll actually understand why Sarah called Abraham Lord. It was prophetic. And one of the things we talk about in the video is when you call somebody what their purpose is, it helps a person live according to their purpose. You are agreeing with and agreeing to submit and allow that person to flourish in their particular role. So the Aleph in Hebrew is ox, strength, leader, right? Chief, right? Like the head, right? The first, right? Okay. The Dalet is the door, the pathway, the house, the inn, right? The womb. And then you have the final noon, and it's just like the regular noon. So the noon is the seed, the life, It means activity. It means continuance. Now, just at this, and we'll actually look at the actual definition. When you put these together, you have the Aleph, or the strong leader. So, with Adon, as we saw just previously, we have each word or each letter having a function. And this function actually tells a story of the action behind the function. Okay, so we had Aleph, the Dalet, and the final Nun. We talked about the Aleph being the ox, strength, leader, Dalet, door, tent, pathway, in, final Nun being seed, fish, activity, life, or continuance. And so the function of the Adon encompasses all of these. The Aleph stands at the door and he guards the seed, but he also uses his seed to carry out the rest of the seed. So by using this term just in its basic function, it's reconfirming the role of the man in our community. And you'll see why community is such an important part of this in our further definition. And so when you take away the function, and you don't want to call somebody what the Hebraic understanding is, then you take away how that person will function. So you wonder why men don't guard their seed. You wonder why men don't guard the womb or the entrance before they put seed. You wonder all these things because they're not put in a position to reverence what and who they're supposed to be. So without having an action-based definition, anything pretty much goes. So the two-letter root that I spoke of a little bit earlier, Don, which is the Dalet and the Nun, has to do with the idea of a rule or a ruler, okay? And so the pictograph Dalet is a door, and the Nun is a picture of a seed representing the idea of life. Combining these pictures mean the door of life. So the Aleph is guarding the door of life, but he also is the door of life. And we'll see as we get further into this definition. The ancient Hebrew concept of a ruler or a judge is one who restores life. This life is a continuance. It's continuing to happen within the community. And this can also mean that this person is the one who delivers other people to life by, obviously, his blood or his seed. It also means the goal of one who rules, and it has to do with the idea of bringing pleasant or righteous judgment. So by calling a man Adon, we're not talking about Adonai as a cover-up for Yahuwah, because Yahuwah is greater, obviously, than the Adon. This is the physical. The physical is never attributed to Yah. The physical is attributed to man. So the authority of man, right, is bestowed upon him by Yah. And the authority is to be the ruler, the head, and the judge of his home in order to carry out not his righteous judgment, but his righteous judgment. Okay, so what Sarah was doing was confirming the authority. The issue that a lot of women have with submission is because they're misplacing the authority. The authority is given, and it's based upon position. When this person, the Adon, right? When the Adon is under Yahuwah, then he gets authority. His authority comes down to here, and then his authority goes down, obviously, to the M, or the mother, right? So it's a picture of a transference or a delegation of authority, right? We're not giving Yah's authority to one who is not in position. You all off over here in left field, you're not getting Yah's authority. But when a person is trying to walk circumspect to the will of Yah, then you confirm and you reiterate on that role, and you push them and you submit to that, because this Yah's the head. And as you submit to him, you see the picture now, you're submitting to Yah. Sarah was saying, I understand the role, and although this person isn't perfect, their will is perfectly submitted to the Father, in that they're willing to make all the necessary adjustments to receive the blessing that comes with the community. The community relies on the Adon. So when I say call your husband Adoni, which obviously I'll show you again. Adoni, you're calling him my master. So it has to do with the idea of master, ruler, judge, right? Head of the community. These are all things that as women we should aspire to have in a husband. So for you single women, if you have an issue with your husband being your master, your ruler, your judge, and the head of your community, then that's not the man for you, because by nature, his role is to be Adon. That's the delegation because of the position that Yah has placed him in. If he is, in fact, a Hebrew man, then he is the seed of Abraham, which means that he carries out the same function of his father Abraham. Yah told Abraham that he would make him a father of many nations, and his seed would bless many nations. Well, they would have to then function according to the same role that Abraham functioned according to, which is the Aleph, which is the ox, the strength, the leader of the community, guarding the Dalet and the door, and being the one that passes on the seed and continuing the lineage and the righteous lineage. So a man like that, obviously you can reverence and you will call that. And if your man is not that yet, it is only by reconfirming and reaffirming this position that he will even know what to do. A lot of people have an issue with English, and this is not Yiddish, obviously. This is Hebrew. You can't get this out of Yiddish. Yiddish are made up words that were German, that were translated or transliterated into Hebrew. And what happened later is that those people found that, hey, we can't BS people anymore. We're going to have to go back to that biblical stuff. And obviously, they speak something different. But when you take the DNA and the function of the words and you break them down, then you get action. And so many people are confused about what their action is in Yah's kingdom, because you're taking away the definitions because you're demonizing them based upon your English interpretation. So when I say, call your husband Adoni, I'm not saying take a word that they use to cover up Yah's name and call it to your husband. I'm saying call him according to his Yah-given authority and function, so that you can reverence and submit to this man and put him back in his proper position, which obviously the world has stolen. So all you brothers out there that do watch, I'm not trying to teach you anything. I'm teaching the women how to get in their proper position and to understand your function so that they can support it like they're supposed to be. They are the daughters of Sarah, supporting the sons of Abraham.
Royalty. Royalty. Power to the chosen people.